hire, bro.
All right, hi. This is kind of for the both of you. Working with Tom Ruger and all of the shows that he does, with all the Warner Brothers stuff that he does, what is this huge fascination with breaking the fourth wall almost consistently in every episode?
I don't know. I think, well, that's part of what Tom used. I mean, he had a lot of...
Have you been to Tom's house?
He breaks walls.
He has no fourth walls anywhere. Everything opens out onto the street. He turns and talks to people as they walk by. Can you believe this?
I think part of what Tom, he surrounds himself with actors and writers who have huge improv backgrounds and stand-up backgrounds. I think he uses that, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, I can't answer for him, but you know, it's a technique that I know. I loved when I was a kid. I used to love the George Burns show.
Oh yeah.
Kid, when George Burns would just turn, you know,
just look in the camera.
It's all right. I'll have to eat that. I'm the producer.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. I love
Jack Benny would just stare at the camera, breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah.
Can you believe it? And now Modern Family does that. That's Modern Family's stock and trade, and it's fucking hysterical. But you also have good, solid actors. And when you look at the people, the writing staff, you have Sherry Stoner, Deanna Oliver, Peter Hastings, Paul Rugg, John McCann, all of whom were huge improv guys. And then you have the actors like you know, Welker and Maurice are stand-up guys. Billy West is a stand-up guy. I'm a musician that did improv. Tress was in the A group in the Groundlings. Her peers were, you know, Phil Hartman and Pee Wee.
John Lovitz.
John Lovitz. And,
Well.
right, so all of those actors, it doesn't surprise me that that's happened. It's a really interesting observation, but when you brought it up, that kind of makes sense to me. And now Maurice is working with Tom on a new show for Disney. And a lot of that same group.
The 7D.
Yeah.
It's going to be on all the Disney channels, the different platforms. And it started out as a show just for little kids, but with Tom and Sherry and Paul Rugg and John McCann.
And Randy's writing the music.
Yeah, with them on board, there had to be a slightly adult sensibility, or at least a tween sensibility. So now it's going across the platforms. And yes, the characters do speak, you know, do break down the fourth wall. We have like, it's sort of like an interview segment. You know, the adventure takes place, and then we cut to, you know, Grumpy sitting on the couch talking to a camera about, well, we thought that at the end of the villains were trying to do this, but we're trying to do that. Meanwhile, Happy's a pain in the ass. You know, so it's more of that third wall stuff that's brilliant. It's done brilliantly. Fourth wall, sorry.
And one last thing. Kind of on a more serious note, a lot of people are saying that with the turnover of a new generation of animation, that the writing has become less intelligent, and there's, you know, less of this wit and more of this kind of humor that comes out of nowhere and you don't really see it.
You mean random?
Yes, very random.
That new thing called random? Here's something random. I hate random.
Do you think that it is that way, that it's very just straightforward random and they're just trying to get the humor just, you know, pulped out of it? Or do you think that, you know, there's something unseen that we might see, you know, later on where people are going to be, you know, in their 20s and say in their childhood back in 2010, they say, oh man, there was something there?
I understand what you're talking about, and I work on every now and then on shows, especially on like Cartoon Network or Adult Swim or sometimes, that are interesting and fun, but as an audience member, I will watch them, and I don't know if it's because I'm old or if it's because I'm used to really solid scripts by guys like Mike Reese is here this weekend. He's a freaking genius, right? And Moog has had a chance to work with him on Futurama and The Simpsons, and all the people with whom we've got to work. They're great storytellers. They're great, you know.
Yeah.
And so I look at it and I watch it, and it does. It seems so. I don't know where this comes from. I don't. Now I'm hip enough to get a joke that's slapstick or funny for the sake of the joke. But as a performer and as an audience member, like, let me very quickly, on my podcast, I had Phil Lamar as a guest more than once. And Phil is, yeah, absolutely. And Phil is a phenomenal actor, an incredibly bright man, and a delightful guy. And when I was talking to him, I said, you know, who are some of your inspirations? Who are some of your favorite actors? And he mentioned several, one of which was, one of my favorite actors is Bugs Bunny. He didn't say Mel Blanc. He knows that Mel Blanc did it. But what he said was Bugs Bunny, and that was very interesting. And what I think he meant by that is the same thing that I feel about well fleshed out characters like Pinky and the Brain, you know, if I may be so bold. And that is that with Bugs and the other actors like Daffy and Elmer, in the context of the episodes, I can see Bugs right now sitting, reading a racing form, drinking a beer in his rabbit hole, and when he comes out and does duck season, wabbit season, duck season, that's a chunk out of his life, and then he's done, and it's out, and he goes back to the rabbit hole, right? There's a beginning and an end, and I believe the hackneyed actor phrase, I believe the organic nature of that character was so solid and clear as a result of Mel Blanc and Chuck Jones and Bob McKimson, the great directors, and Carl Stalling. It all worked so that I believe it. Now I suspend my disbelief, but I believe what I'm seeing. It doesn't come out of nowhere. And so, I didn't mean this to be this long treatise on the philosophy of cartoons.
No, it's much appreciated.
But I hear what you're talking about, and I try not to be an old fuddy-duddy, because I am. I'm getting old. But I love new talent, and I love new things, and I love people carrying on. But I must admit, I prefer being told a story and have a character developed for me. That's what I like.
Nice.
What do you think, Brian?
I think if it's funny, it's funny.
Thank you guys so much for being here.
I'll tell you, honestly, with this, my theory that to have, and which is mine and what it is too, is that humor is constantly changing. What we see as comedy has changed ever since we began recording it. You know, that guy that goes, "Oh, a wise guy, eh?"
Yeah.
In 1930s films, he was funny then. He's not funny now, you know. But you know, yet somehow or another, we still find the Cowardly Lion from the same era to be an endearing and funny character. It's almost like a filtration process, and we add new things to the mix of what's funny, and what doesn't work falls away, and it grows to what we've got now. I think random will go away, but we'll save a kernel of what's at the very center of this, you know, thing called random, and that'll stay with humor as we go on. I mean, there always has to be something new, because we won't keep laughing at the same things. When the Pythons came along, nobody was doing what Monty Python did in the 1970s, which was, you know, sort of surreal and you know, but also deeply meaningful and satirical. So I think as we move along, you know, in 20 years we'll look back on this and go, well, we retained this from that kind of humor from the 2010s, but now we've got, you know, whatever it'll be in 2030 that's funny. Caesar will always be funny to me.
Yeah.
You know, the idea, the concept that something, you have to take something normal and then have something go terribly wrong, you know, and have a little twist at the end. That's comedy gold. That'll never go away.